A few minutes before sunrise, a British camouflage section is already working. Men are pushing poles into hard ground. They're hauling ropes tight. They're lifting a net until it hangs high enough to breathe, then tying strips of hessian and handfuls of scrub into the mesh. From the ground, it looks like messy labour. From the air, it becomes a new landscape. Not a vehicle, not a gun, just an irregular patch of shadow that feels natural at a glance. That is what camouflage netting was designed to do. It wasn't meant to match the colour. It was meant to attack recognition, to break the shape, confuse the shadow, and destroy the clean geometry that the eye trusts at distance. And nets could be brutally effective, but they weren't magic, because most failures came from the same mistakes. Mistakes that created 6 betrayals, 6 clues that scream, there is something under here. In this episode, we're going to break those 6 down, and then prove them with 2 real-world pictures. One success, where nets were part of a system, and one failure pattern, where nets couldn't hide what the ground was already admitting. Chapter 1. What a net really hid. Most people think camouflage is colour. Make it green, make it brown, paint stripes on it, and it disappears. But wartime manuals tell you a different story. In US Army doctrine, FM 520, camouflage nets are described in a way that matters. They talk about shadow nets, nets garnished to appear as irregular dark patches. That is the point. A net does not hide because it matches the colour of the ground. A net hides because it changes the shadows, the texture, and the silhouette. The things your eye trusts at distance, and this is why netting became standard. Paint helps, but it is flat. A net is 3-dimensional. It hangs, it sags, it creates dapple, and that dapple can break the clean geometry of a gun barrel, a turret, a truck roof. British doctrine was just as systematic. The War Office issued training pamphlets that treated camouflage like engineering, not art. Pamphlet number 46 even included tables of net sizes, which nets, and how many nets, for different vehicles and guns. That is what standardization looks like. Not try your best. But this is the kit, this is the method, this is the scale. And the method had a key word that shows up again and again: garnishing. That meant adding material, hessian strips, foliage, branches, to stop the net from looking like a simple fishing net thrown over a machine. Because a bare net is a pattern, and patterns can be detected. So the net became a base layer. Then you built a landscape on top of it. Not just to fool a man standing on the ground, but to fool someone looking down from above. Because in World War II, aerial observation became a constant threat. If the enemy can photograph your position, you're not hiding from one pair of eyes, you're hiding from a system. Chapter 2. The 6 things that betray a net. Now here's the heart of this episode. Nets work. But nets also fail in the same predictable ways. And wartime doctrine, British and American, keeps warning about the same clues. So let's name them 6 betrayals. Betrayal number 1. The net is too low. If a net sits tight and follows the exact silhouette of a tank or gun, then it does not break the shape. It becomes a thin skin that outlines the machine. From the air, your eye still reads rectangle, turret, barrel. A net has to create space, a false volume, so the object under it becomes ambiguous. Betrayal number 2. Symmetry. Human beings love straight lines and neat edges. Nature almost never does. A net that forms a clean rectangle, with evenly spaced poles, with a tidy perimeter, looks like a man-made installation. British manuals warn against neatness. American doctrine warns against regularity. If it looks organised, it is detectable. The best net edges are uneven, ragged, broken. They look accidental. Betrayal number 3. Wrong garnish. A net is not green. A net is the season. Spring foliage does not look like autumn. Dry branches do not look like fresh leaves. And a green garnish in a brown landscape is worse than no garnish at all. This is why manuals treat garnishing as maintenance, not decoration. Because the landscape changes, and if you do not change with it, your net becomes a flag. Betrayal number 4. The shadows of the support structure. Poles, frames, ropes, a net might create dapple, but the support structure can create hard, straight shadows. And hard shadows are readable. They reveal angles and height. The irony is cruel. You camouflage the vehicle, and the poles betray the camouflage. This is why good net setups hide the supports as aggressively as the machine. If the poles look like poles, you failed. Betrayal number 5, tracks and fresh earth. This may be the most common betrayal of all, because it does not matter how perfect your net looks, if there is a trail leading to it. Wheel ruts, footprints, drag marks, freshly dug soil, freshly cut branches. On the ground, those signs can be invisible. From the air, they can be obvious. The net might hide the object, but the ground around it tells the story. Betrayal number 6, shine. Shine is instant betrayal. A gun barrel, a windshield, a helmet rim, a wet surface under the wrong sun angle, and yes, wet nets can shine too. If rain leaves water pooling or beading, the net becomes reflective. One flash is enough, because observers aren't searching for a tank, they are searching for anomalies. Anything that behaves like metal or glass becomes a signal. So, here is the checklist. If you want a net to work, you don't start by asking, what colour should it be? You ask, is it high enough to break the silhouette? Are the edges irregular? Does the garnish match the season? Do the supports vanish into the scene? Are there tracks or fresh earth leading to it? Is anything capable of flashing? And now we make it practical. Imagine a simple test. Same background, same distance, same light. Shot 1, a net thrown tight over a vehicle, neat edges, no garnish. Shot 2, a net raised high, irregular perimeter, proper garnish. Shot 3, same as shot 2, but with fresh track marks leading straight to it. Even without seeing the vehicle, the third shot gives it away. Because nets hide objects, discipline hides activity. Chapter 3. When nets won and when they failed. Now we ground this in 2 real-world pictures. One success, where netting was part of a larger system, and one failure pattern, where netting could not overcome reality. Case 1. Operation Bertram, El Alamein. Success. October 1942. North Africa. Montgomery is preparing a major offensive at El Alamein. The problem is obvious. How do you assemble armour and supplies in open desert without the enemy seeing it from the air? This is where camouflage becomes planning. British Chief of Camouflage Geoffrey Barkas later described the concealment effort plainly. It was essentially a piece of military planning, with camouflage carrying out specific tasks, because nets alone didn't win anything. Nets were one tool in a system. Real vehicles were concealed, dummy vehicles were displayed, movements were timed, positions were arranged to suggest the wrong story. From the air, the enemy didn't see an obvious armoured build-up. They saw a picture that implied not ready yet, or the main blow will come somewhere else. That is what a successful camouflage system looks like. Not one trick, but a whole environment of false signals. And nets were critical inside that system, because they removed the most dangerous signal of all, the unmistakable geometry of real armour in open terrain. Case 2. Normandy Bocage, typical failure pattern. Now shift to Normandy, 1944. The landscape is the opposite of the desert. Hedgerows, sunken lanes, wet soil, broken terrain. In that environment, netting can work extremely well, because the background already has texture and shadow. But Normandy also creates a problem that manuals don't always capture with one sentence: activity. An artillery position isn't just an object, it's trucks arriving, ammunition stacked, men moving, earth being dug, paths being worn in. So here's the honest way to frame the second case. Not as one single famous incident, but as a failure pattern that doctrine keeps warning about. A net can be perfect, and still fail if the ground around it is screaming, "People work here." Freshly dug soil near a gun pit, cut vegetation that doesn't match the surrounding growth, tracks that lead straight to the concealed site. Even if the net breaks the silhouette, those clues become the target. And once counter-battery fire starts, you learn another brutal truth. You cannot always take the net with you. In theory, doctrine is clean. In reality, under pressure, people abandon gear. So the failure here is not that nets were useless, it's that camouflage is only as strong as the discipline around it, and the pace of war rarely allows perfect discipline for long. Outro. The net is fabric. The system is camouflage. Camouflage nets were one of the most effective concealment tools of World War II for a simple reason. They fought recognition, not colour. They broke silhouettes. They created irregular shadow. They made machines look like landscape. But nets were never magic. Take away height, and the silhouette returns. Make the edges neat, and geometry appears. Use the wrong garnish, and you create contrast. Leave tracks, and you draw a line to your position. Let something shine, and you light a beacon. So remember the rule: the net hides the object. Discipline hides the war happening around it, and that's why the best camouflage is boring. It's maintenance, it's inspection, it's the same checklist every day. Because on the battlefield, the enemy doesn't need certainty. He only needs one mistake. Thank you for listening. See you next time.